Thank you, Mr. Chair, for having this panel to talk about such an important topic that's regarding the safety and national security of our nation. And I'm so glad that you're having this panel talk about the importance of the Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act of 2017 and its nationwide effect on safety, security, and of course national security. Now, as a panel, we plan to show you exactly what the United States is facing without this law in effect. We plan to show you an expert's opinion as well as some real-life stories of life and death. First, I'd like to provide a little bit of background in the concealed carry in its current state. The laws in the United States vary from restrictive to the laws that promote everyday carry of a concealed weapon. The permit that is issued called a concealed carry permit or license, and it has many names, but this is what I'm going to refer to it as. Each state has its own variation of how permits are issued. The strictest is a no issue, which means no one is allowed to carry a concealed weapon. The next is a may issue, which means the state has discretion on who is allowed to have a concealed weapons permit. A shall issue means a state has a law that sets criteria for a permit, and if a person meets those criteria, then they are to be issued a concealed weapons permit. And the last is a no permit required, which means you don't have to meet any sort of standards to carry a concealed weapon, and you do not have to have a permit to carry a concealed weapon. And this is true in Arizona. Now, these laws are very effective in every state, but that means they also vary in every state. But I'll return to that momentarily. Now, the whole purpose of this law is to formalize and streamline the process of carrying these concealed weapons across state lines. Directly out of the summary of the law, it reads, House Resolution 38 would allow persons who are licensed to carry concealed firearms in their state of residence to carry concealed handguns in other states without having to go through the same permitting process for the individual seeking to carry a concealed firearm. And I quote this directly from the law for several reasons. The first, I believe that is truly intention of being a gun-friendly law, something that this country is lacking recently. But again, I will return to that momentarily. This law acknowledges the privileges of the responsible gun owner, and it acknowledges their right to protect and defend themselves against harm against themselves or those around them. These are the rights of the American that are slowly being dwindled. As I've already covered, many states have issues and policies regarding the permits of concealed weapons. This is one of many laws that prevent, prohibit, or create difficulty in owning and carrying a gun. For example, gun control law, a law that was introduced in the 90s, prohibits the ability to own gun accessories like silencer or high capacity magazines, as well as restricting what guns can be sold. It reads directly from the law, within 60 days of passage of the bill, the Secretary will issue a list of restricted weapons that cannot be sold in this country. These restricted weapons are defined as any semi-automatic which is manufactured in the United States and not generally recognized as a particularly suitable gun for or readily adaptable for sporting purposes, and any firearm the importation of which is prohibited. The Secretary would revise this list from time to time, but the law still stands. It ultimately opens up the interpretation of such laws and infringes on our right to bear arms. The crisis in the United States is not that of illegal actions of guns, but that of legal actions being taken against guns. Now, you've heard of the law in the case study, but let's look at statistics and stories of real-life people and what is actually going on in our nation, because laws can't cover everything that we're seeing, and nor do they cover everything that we're seeing. Now, I'm going to take a little bit of step back and talk about the positive things guns are doing and how they are helping the United States in self-protection and protection of many things. There were 1,029,000 guns that were used for self-protection or registered for self-protection, protection of property, or protection of anything that you may own. And these exclude those guns that you may think of as public service guns, such as military or police work or security guard. And there was almost 162,000 cases where someone said, if I had not used my weapon, I almost certainly would have been killed. And had I not used my gun for protection, I almost certainly would have been injured in some way, or my property would have been taken. When we hear these stories, we think of the numbers, but let's think of who these people are. These people are often overlooked. So let's hear some of the stories of these people. First, I'm going to start with a story of an Arizona business owner who was protected by the use of his firearm. After an alleged robber watched his store all morning and cased his store all morning, the robber was waiting for the store to open. When the owner eventually arrived, the robber walked in the store and followed him in and produced a handgun once he walked in. The owner ducked behind the counter, produced his own handgun, and shot the man in the leg. This is the classic case of defending property of his own with the same force that he was faced with himself. The doors locked before he could leave, and he was taken to the hospital where he was later charged, and he only sustained non-life-threatening injuries. Now, I can't say the same for this next one. A woman who's 69 years old shot and almost fatally injured a man who was breaking in. Now, this man didn't know who was inside. He didn't care. All he knew is he wanted to rob her. These are the stories that we see every day, and these are the stories that are often overlooked. We just see numbers and we just see the laws, and we don't see the people that they are truly affecting. Now, in conclusion, I'd like to leave you with this. I'd like to leave you with the thought that guns are tools of self-defense and tools that support the society that we live in today. So today, I urge you to support this law and what would make firearms easier to possess across state lines. These men and women have been trained and licensed to carry these weapons, and it is only logical to let them do so anywhere they choose to go. Thank you.